became deaf in my 20s, and I couldn't afford to pay for the implant that would restore my hearing. A nameless organization offered to pay for it. And when I accepted, I started to hear things no person should ever have to hear. Before I start, I'd like to be as transparent as possible. 20 years ago, I was convicted of manslaughter, framed by an organization that took my need and my vulnerability and twisted it to their own ends. I can't right my wrongs, and I know that I'll live with the consequences of trusting them for the rest of my life. Now that I'm free, though I finally decided to put the truth of what happened to me out into the world, which boils down to this. The organization implanted something that allowed me to hear sounds that are normally well out of reach from our perception. Sounds that the human mind wasn't designed to withstand. An imperceptible cacophony that is occurring all around you. As you read this, you just don't know it. It's occurring around me as I write this as well, and although I can't physically hear it, I can still feel it. It's faint, but I know it's there. And once I came to understand what they did, they made sure to silence me. 11:01:02, 10 days before the incident ready. I nodded, which was only kind of a lie. I was always ready for this part of my week to be over, but I was never quite ready for the god-awful sensation. Hewitt clicked the remote and the implant in my left temple whirred to life. It always started gently, a quiet buzzing. Irritating, but only mildly so. Inevitably, however, the sound and the vibration crescendoed. What started as a soft hum grew into a furious droning like a cicada, vibrating angry verses from the inside of my skull. I gritted my teeth and closed my eyes tight. Only a few more seconds. Finally, when I could barely tolerate it anymore, a climatic shockwave radiated from the device, causing my jaw to clack from the force. With the reverberation dissipating as it moved further down my body, the device stilled. A sigh of relief spilled from my lips. I opened my eyes and saw green light reflecting off of Hewitt's thick glasses from the implant's remote. In layman's terms, I'd learned that meant all good. Hewitt smiled, creasing his weathered cheeks. The implant is primed. Let me collect my materials so we can get this show on the road. The stout Italian physician shot up from his desk chair and turned to face the wooden cabinets that lined the back of his office. Despite his advanced age and bulky frame, he was still remarkably spry. Thanks. By the way, I don't think I'll ever be ready for that dog. For any of this, actually. You can probably stop asking. Save your breath, I mean. As I spoke, it felt like heavy grains of sand were swimming around my molars. I swished the pebbles onto my tongue and spit them into my hand, frowning at the chalky crystals in my palm. Jesus cracked another filling. Does the audiology department have a PO box I can forward my dental bills to? He chuckled weakly as he turned back towards me. The old doctor was only half listening now, preoccupied with assembling the familiar experimental setup. Carefully, he placed a Buddha statue, a spray bottle of clear liquid, 4 half-foot tall metal pillars, and a capped petri dish on the desk. Absent-mindedly, I rubbed the scar above my temple. Most of the time, I just pretended like I could perceive the outline of the dime-sized implant. The delusion helped me feel in control, but I wasn't in control. Not completely. At least I shared control with the remote in Hewitt's hand, especially when his part of the implant was active. The experimental portion, suppressing the existential anxiety that came with split dominance, was challenging. I wasn't used to my sensations being a democracy. The concession felt worth it though. The implant restored my hearing, and Hewitt installed it free with a single string attached. I had to play ball with these weekly sessions, testing the part of the implant that I wasn't allowed to know anything about per our agreement. On the desk, The doctor was arranging the metal pillars into a small square. Once satisfied with the dimensions of the square, he'd position the statue, the spray bottle, and the petri dish into the center of it. Then testing would finally begin. "So, are your other patients tolerating this thing?" "Okay," I asked, fishing for a few reassuring words. The doctor looked up from his designs, pointing a brown iris and a bushy white eyebrow at me. "There are no other patients like you, David." He paused for a moment, maintaining unbroken eye contact, as if to highlight the importance of what just came out of his mouth. Abruptly, he severed his gaze and resumed fidgeting with the metal pillars. But he continued to talk. "Your case, this situation, it's unique. A marriage of circumstances. When the brain infection took your hearing, any model of cochlear implant could have been used to repair it, but you couldn't afford them, not even the cheapest one. At the exact same time, my lab was looking for an elegant solution to our own problem. A friend of a friend was aware of both of our dilemmas. You needed an implant for free, and we needed a..." He stopped talking mid-sentence and swiveled his head around the setup, examining it from different angles and elevations. But he made no further modifications. It seemed like everything was in its right place. Contented, he sat back down in his chair, and briefly Hewitt was motionless. He looked either lost in his thoughts, captivated by things he'd rather not say out loud, or he was resting and not thinking about anything at all. Either way, it took a moment for him to remember he had been explaining something to me. My confused facial expression probably sped that process along. "Right? We needed a..." He trailed off, wringing his hand to convey he was searching for the correct word in English. "We needed an operator. Someone to tell us that the device worked like we had designed it to. I wouldn't say this was an elegant solution, but we're both getting something out of the deal, I suppose. In the 9 months since the implantation, this was by far the most Hewitt ever divulged about the deeper contents of their arrangement. As requested, he didn't check if I was ready this time. Instead, he winked and clicked another button on the remote. What do you hear instantly? I could hear sound emanating from each of the stationary objects in the middle of the square. Nothing moved, and yet a loud rhythmic drumming filled my ears. Despite being able to tell the noise was coming from directly in front of me, it sounded incredibly distant too, like it was echoing from the depths of a massive cave system, before it reached me standing at the cave's entrance. What started a single drum eventually became a frenzied ensemble. Over only a few seconds, hundreds of drum rolls layered over each other, until the chaotic pounding caused my head to throb. The Buddha was grinning, but that's not what I heard. I heard the marble figure screaming at me, its voice made of deafening thunder, rather than anything recognizably human. I cradled my temple with my palm and grimaced, shouting an answer to Hewitt's question. "All 3 things are drumming, same as always, Doc." He clicked the remote again, and like the flick of a switch, the objects became silent immediately. "Thank you, David. Head to the lobby. Grab a book and have Anne-Marie make you a cup of coffee. In about an hour, I'll call you back. We'll repeat the procedure. I'll deactivate the implant, and you'll be done for the week." My legs pulled my body out of the chair without a shred of hesitation. I was dying to leave the office and get some fresh air. As my hand gripped the doorknob, however, Hewitt's words rang in my head. "There are no other patients like you, David." I turned back to the doctor, who was now spraying down the statue with the unknown liquid. "Hewitt, you mentioned something when we first met in the hospital about our contract. You said that eventually you'd be able to explain to me what we're doing here. I know I've never brought it up before now. I think I used to be more scared of knowing than I was of being left in the dark, and, well, I've sort of been feeling the opposite way as of late. Is that option still on the table? Although he interrupted what he was doing, he didn't meet my gaze. Instead, he kept his focus on the statue and muttered a half-hearted response. I can appeal to the board. No promises, David. When I returned an hour later, the objects and the pillars were in their same positions, but the Buddha had a new glistening shine on its marble skin. As the device activated, the horrible drumming reappeared, but only from the spray bottle and the petri dish. The statue remained eerily quiet. Hewitt clicked the remote one last time. The implant beeped 3 times and then released one last shockwave weaker than the one that came with priming his part of the device. This supposedly meant the implant had completely deactivated its experimental portion. I was told the designers never intended me to experience the drumming outside a controlled setting. Well, that's all for today. You have my cell phone number. I may not always be able to answer, but call me if there are any issues. Feel free to leave a message as well. He shook my hand, forced a smile, and then waved me out of his office. As I turned to leave, my eyes fell on the gleaming statue still sitting on his desk. Although the silence better matched the figure's smile, I couldn't help but feel like it was still screaming, berating me for being so naive. I just couldn't hear it anymore. Below, I've typed out what I can recall of the messages I left for Hewitt leading up to my indictment. Here's what I remember. 11:05:02. 6 days before the incident. Mihei Hewitt. First off, everything is okay. I know I've never called you on your cell before, so I don't want you to think that. I don't want you to think there's a big emergency or something. I mean, there kind of was, but I'm alright. I was in a car accident. Drunk driver fell asleep at the wheel, swerved into traffic, and I T-boned him. Not sure he walked away from the wreck, but I'm hanging in there. All things considered, just a broken rib and a nasty concussion on my end. Banged the side of my head against the steering wheel pretty hard. Still hearing everything okay, so I'm assuming the device is working fine. But I figured with the head injury, you might want to know. Especially since our next appointment isn't for another week. Give me a call back at Ags when you can. 11:06:02, 5 days before. Me got your machine again, I guess. Haven't heard from you, so I suppose you aren't too worried about me. Or the implant, which is good. But, maybe you should be. I am. After last night, I started hearing the drumming at home. Just little bits of it here and there. Much quieter than usual. I was sitting at my computer, and I heard it in the background of the music I was listening to. It just kind of appeared. I'm not sure how long it was there before I noticed it. At first, I thought I was hearing things, but as I walked through my apartment, it became louder. Muffled though, felt like it was coming from multiple places rather than one. Eventually, I thought I tracked it to a drawer in my kitchen, but when I pulled it open, it stopped. All of a sudden, I guess it could be the concussion, but the noise is so distinctive. An invisible jackhammer banging into invisible concrete. Like I've told you. Anyway, just call me back. Oh, before I forget, have you heard from the board? I'd really like to know what this thing does. In addition to my hearing, 11:08:02, 3 days before me, Doc. Where the fuck are you? Sorry, didn't mean to lose my temper. I haven't slept. Can the implant turn on by itself? I'm definitely hearing whatever I'm being trained to hear. It's everywhere, comes and goes at random. Or maybe I'm just starting to hear it when I face it a certain way. My head, it feels like an antenna. If I turn my head up and to the left, it all goes away. Any other position though, and I can hear the drumming. Like I said, everywhere. On my phone, my clothes, the walls. I I heard it inside myself too. I managed to fall asleep, but I guess I relaxed and my muscles relaxed and, well, my head must have turned because I could hear it again. Loud as hell from the inside of my mouth. I'm not proud, but I kind of freaked out. Put my hands in my mouth and just started scraping. I wanted it out of me, dug at my gums. It's really bad. I can't drive either. I mean, I can try, but I feel like I'll just get in another wreck trying to keep my head up and to the left while driving. And what if it still happens, even though my head is in the right place? Please call me. 11:10:02, one day before me. I've started to feel it all. Hewitt, the drumming, it's moving over everything. It's in everything. It breaks you and then it rebuilds you again. And now I have only one sense, not five. I don't see. I don't taste, smell, touch. And I certainly don't hear, not anymore. But I feel the current. I feel it writhing and pounding and slipping and fucking and expanding and consuming and living and dying over every goddamned thing. It speaks to me, not in a language or a tongue. It's a tide, it ebbs and flows. It sings wordless songs to me. And I understand now. I thought you cursed me, Hewitt. But all transitions cause pain. I mean, how do you turn a liquid into a gas? You boil it, and when it bubbles, its tiny, pleading screams, you certainly don't stop. You turn up the heat. 11:11:02, day of the incident. Me hello shouting. Hewitt David, are you at home, me dog? Oh, thank God. You gotta help me. Oh God, it's everywhere. I'm nothing. Shouting Hewitt, can you get to the... I cut him off. Me please make it stop. Why doesn't it ever stop? Crying, shouting, Hewitt David, I need you to calm down. Me, am I hearing death, Hewitt? Can God hear what I can hear, Doc? Or are they too scared? Laughing, shouting Hewitt. Listen, shouting me. Line goes dead, Hewitt. You're hearing the microscopic David. It was all just supposed to be a novel way to test the effectiveness of anti-infectious agents. Once they stopped moving, we know the medication killed them. We stood to make a lot of money off of the technology, but we couldn't prove it worked. Not until you've helped so many people, David. Me quietly, I've been able to hear, able to feel the billions of living things moving around on my skin, inside me, everywhere. Hewitt, don't call an ambulance, don't call the police. We're coming to pick you up. I don't remember much from that night other than this conversation. I can vaguely recall Hewitt arriving at my apartment, remote in hand. He examines my head, and I'm fading in and out of consciousness. When I fully come to, I'm lying on my couch holding a gun I'd never seen before. A few steps away is Hewitt's corpse, and I start crying. Not out of fear or confusion, out of relief. It's finally quiet, silent as the grave. The endless drumming of infinite microorganisms crawling around me and within me had vanished. My weeping is interrupted by a man rounding the corner into my living room. He's well dressed with dark blue eyes, and he walks over to sit next to me, stepping over Hewitt as he does. He introduces himself as Hewitt. Tell me the body won't be needing the name anymore, so it's his. Now, listen, David, we have some new terms. You can still keep the device meaning. You can keep your hearing. It's fixed now too. You won't be hearing anything. You weren't meant to hear from now until the day you die. As with any fair deal, I have some conditions. You can't tell anyone what you heard, and you have to take the fall for the killing of the nameless body in front of you. If you do those things, you'll be safe. Fail to abide by those conditions, and we're turning the noise back on. All of it. And we'll leave it on up until the moment you choke on your own tongue. Not a second sooner. Do you understand, David? I agreed to the terms then. But I've had a little change of heart. Jail gave me perspective. You see, the punishment behind incarceration is that you lose your autonomy. That's your incentive to reform. Serve your time, play by the rules. And hey, maybe we'll give you your agency back. Maybe you'll have an opportunity to own your body again. It makes you realize that agency and autonomy are the only things that really have value in this world. Without them, you have nothing. And what is this implant but another jail? I've wanted to speak up for so damn long, but the threat of being subjected to the drumming again has kept me silent. Well, I've changed. I'm tired of just settling for what they'll give me. I want my goddamned agency back. So to the creators of the implant, consider this my resignation from our contract. In addition, I have a few choice words. I am relying on the internet to carry them to you wherever you are. Do your worst, motherfuckers.